welcome back to our third month of jazz history, really finding out what is jazz. In our first month, we looked at the beginnings of jazz and sort of where those came from a little bit. Last week, we spoke about the structures of jazz and about improvisation and things like that. This month, we're going to take a look at the instruments of jazz, really. We're going to talk about the role of each instrument in jazz and the role of each person in a democratic society, linking those two things, democracy and jazz, together. So let's jump in to what is jazz, and more specifically, what is each instrument's responsibility? So, generally speaking, we can break down a jazz band into two groups of instruments, and that is horns and the rhythm section. So when we speak about horns, we're talking about things like the saxophone, the trumpet, and the trombone, as well as any other single-note instruments, including the human voice. These instruments are usually responsible for playing melodies, both written, as we refer to the head, and improvised, their individual solos. The other group, the rhythm section, includes the piano, the bass, and the drums. Their primary role is to accompany and provide support for the horn players as well as for each other. They are definitely also allowed to improvise solos. The pianist's primary job is to play chords. Those are the music that accompanies the melody in a lively, rhythmic fashion. When the piano does this, we refer to this as comping. Comping comes from the word accompany. It's sort of a shortened version. The pianist also improvises melodically. When doing this, they improvise a melody by playing single notes in the right hand while comping the chords in the left hand. It's pretty cool that the piano really can play all the backgrounds and the foregrounds with their two hands. The bassist's primary job is to play the roots of the chords and lay down a great groove. The bass is the foundation, the bottom, the pulse, the glue that keeps everyone together. The drummer's primary job is to keep the beat steady and complement what the soloists or improvisers are playing. They do this by introducing rhythmic accents and laying down a great groove with the bassist. The drummer adds the excitement to the performance. So I'd like us to listen to a few examples of the rhythm section and comping. First, some examples of comping.
To understand what the pianist does, we need to appreciate chords, chord voicing, and chord progressions. The jazz pianist improvises accompaniments for the improvising jazz soloists. These accompaniments are not simply a string of unvoiced chords played on the beat, as we heard earlier. To play off the beat is to syncopate. S-Y-N-C-O-P-A-T-E. And it is syncopation that helps make jazz swing. When the pianist improvises some syncopated chording for the jazz soloist, the pianist is providing the soloist with several different things. Complementary sounds. In other words, the pianist is enhancing the playing of the improvising soloist. Another thing is chords. The pianist is supplying the improvising soloist with indications of the harmonies that the band is using so that the soloist will create melodic lines that fit the sound of the group. And one more thing is swing feeling. The pianist is syncopating in a peculiar way that helps the soloist swing, and even without the solo sound, the pianist helps the band swing. Our pianist will sound the chords in a very regular fashion, striking the piano keys directly on the beat. This is not comping, this is simply chording. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now our pianist will sound those same chords, but this time he'll accent them in irregular ways and not always strike the piano keys directly on the beat. When he strikes them off the beat, he's syncopating. This rhythmic characteristic is typical of jazz, and it's essential to comping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. What we've been hearing is called comping. The word is derived from the word accompanying. It can also be thought to stem from the word complementing. Essentially, comping consists of syncopated chording that's intended to accompany an improvising soloist. Usually, the accompanist listens very carefully to the soloist and tries to invent patterns that fit the rhythmic and melodic directions that are suggested in the solo line. The accompanist is improvising to fit the moment-to-moment needs of the soloist. Remember that all the players in a jazz combo are improvising their parts at the same time. They're listening to each other very carefully and trying to contribute sounds that enhance each other's playing. There's a tremendous amount of give and take involved in combo playing. The musicians are very considerate of each other at all times. They try to not get in each other's way.
And now some examples of the rhythm section, as well as hearing how things might sound without certain members of the rhythm section.
By now, you probably have realized that the music can swing without the piano or the drums. And the musicians can all follow the same chord progressions without actually hearing the chords. So why bother to have all three members of the rhythm section present? We certainly could save a lot of money on salaries if we used only a bassist. The answer is that sometimes it's more exciting to have a complete rhythm section. There's more musical activity, and there are more lines of spontaneous interaction possible among group members. So now let's hear a chorus of that same 12-bar blues with the piano, bass, and drums all sounding an accompaniment together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. During the 1980s and 90s, jazz rhythm sections often used electric instruments and new rhythms. Their accompaniments sounded like this. To better appreciate what each rhythm section instrument contributes, let's listen to several choruses of the same 12-bar blues using different combinations of instruments. While our soloist is improvising, one or more of our accompanists will stop playing. It might be our drummer, the pianist, the bassist, or a combination of piano, bass, or drums. Your job is to determine what instrument or combination of instruments is missing in any given chorus. You not only need to note the instrument names, but also the way the absence of their sounds makes you feel. In this way, you'll begin to appreciate what the instrument ordinarily contributes to the entire combo sound. By the way, you'll need pencil and paper to help you keep track of this chorus by chorus.
The guitarist is versatile. They can be like a horn player, that is, playing single note melodies, or like a pianist, that is, comping chords. So we're going to watch two short video clips. The first one of Horace Silver and the Horace Silver Quintet playing Song for My Father. There's lots of great video of him playing while he's comping. The other short video that we're going to watch is of Mulgrew Miller, who is a jazz pianist, who's going to talk about comping and what it takes to comp.
Comping is really a deep subject because there's more involved, way more involved in it than most youngsters realize anyway, without experience. To accompany any person, a soloist, singer, anything, demands a certain kind of involvement with the person that you're accompanying, and so you can't just go on automatic pilot and do any one thing, You're accompanying someone, and you have to make them feel comfortable, and give them a certain kind of support. And if you're a pianist, you have 2 or 3 different kinds of support, because you have rhythmic support and you have harmonic support, and you have to do all that at one time, and yet stay out of the way. You can't just override and get in the way of the soloist. So you have to support them without overwhelming them. And you have to be in harmonic sympathy with them, and you have to support. You have to provide rhythmic support for them as well. So one of the best ways to practice that is, especially the rhythmic and time part of it, is to comp by yourself until you feel good, to make it feel good, because it has to feel good for the soloist. And so in order to be assured that you can do it, you have to do it so that it feels good to you. If you're a bass player, you have to walk the bass lines until it feels good, by yourself. If you're a drummer, you play time till it feels good, and then when you come into a group and everybody feels good, they're feeling good together, okay? And nobody's leaning on somebody else, So I try to think of, when I'm comping for a horn player or vocalist, I want to make them feel like they don't need a drummer if he happens not to be there. So I might at home, I might say comp a blues for myself, and it has to feel something, it has to dance. That's the main thing.
Now we're going to continue on to look at jazz as a perfect democracy. So what is democracy? Democracy is a government in which power and responsibility are vested in the people and exercised by them. According to Abraham Lincoln, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Oftentimes, democratic countries also emphasize freedom. Although the terms democracy and freedom are often used interchangeably, they are not the same. Democracy is individual freedom, but with responsibility to the group. In a democratic society, individuals have the freedom to do whatever they wish as long as it doesn't interfere with anyone else. In a perfect democratic society, what the individuals happen to freely choose to do enhances the whole group. If all people freely chose to work hard, not commit crime, be fair, and not discriminate, we would have a perfectly democratic society. Unfortunately, not all people think this way. And things like greed and power and racism get in the way of real perfect democracy. So, we want to see our ensemble, especially smaller jazz groups as well, as a society. That our group of instruments is an example of a perfect democracy. Each player has the freedom to play whatever he or she wants. Sure, in a big band, we have certain instruments we're looking for, but like last year, we had a flute in the group. In the junior group, there were clarinets. So really, you can play whatever instrument you want. But at the same time, each player wants to play something that will not only please themselves, but make the whole group sound better as well, enhancing the overall sound. See, jazz musicians work together on this, supporting each other while not compromising their own artistic individuality. The best jazz band leaders, people like Miles Davis, want their fellow musician to express themselves the way they want and not just do the band leader's bidding. Oftentimes, band leaders would call their fellow musician sidemen. In jazz, the best band leaders encourage their sidemen to think and play however they wish, knowing that the entire group, in turn, will get more ideas and be inspired to play better individually and collectively. The leader and the sidemen work through each song as a team, learning from, complementing, and enhancing each other as they go along. This is the same for the rhythm section and soloist. The rhythm section players want to support, complement, excite, spur on, interact with, and enhance the soloist. The soloist, in turn, wants to interact with, inspire, and be inspired by the rhythm section. Jazz musicians realize that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Each individual part is enhanced by the group. That is, each individual player gets better and comes up with more musical ideas because of the others they play with. Together, the musicians can do so much more than they could ever do individually. They need each other to accomplish their individual and collective goals. Jazz musicians realize the music is better because each player is different. It brings something new to the music, not in spite of their differences. If everyone in the band were the same, the music would probably be boring. There wouldn't be much give and take, learning from one another, or enjoyment. But in a jazz group, it doesn't matter what color you are or what your ethnicity is. What matters is who you are inside and how you play. Next, we're going to listen to a recording by Miles Davis, and I want you to see if you can hear democracy at work. And maybe while you do that, Imagine just how it would be if our society worked like a jazz group.